In this video, we will dive into the story of one of the most interesting characters in the series, Skibidi Toilet. Who is SIMP Cameraman? What abilities does he have? Who is he and why is he popular? Let's understand his basic character traits, in his motivation, in his history, and try to understand what kind of character he is. And what will happen to him next? I spent a lot of time getting all this interesting information. So get comfortable and let's dive into the details.
Greetings, my dear viewers. Pyramid on Air.
I am very glad that real detective analysts have gathered on this channel.
As usual, let's play an Arcana Hunter game.
Find Arcane in video and win a pin. The series Skibidi Toilet truly represents something atypical and innovative in the world of series production. The author uses a modern approach, which can be compared to an adaptive methodology, similar to Agile in software development, but in our case to create characters and script during the production process.
The SIMP birth.
In classic television series production, the characters and plot are developed in advance of filming, and the episodes are planned in advance. In Skibidi Toilet, this process changes. Characters and their stories are developed on the fly as filming progresses. This allows the creator to adapt the story and characters in real time based on audience reactions, changing trends and other factors. This approach can be considered more flexible and reactive, allowing the series to remain relevant and interesting to the audience. Overall, Skibidi Toilet truly represents a new era of modern series production, and its adaptable script methodology may inspire other projects to experiment and innovate in content creation.
We can say with confidence that this character was born using a completely new technology.
And everything new is undoubtedly interesting to us.
So grab your favorite drinks,
Prepare something to eat,
and let's go on this interesting analytical journey.
So his name is SIMP Cameraman, or Brown Cameraman. Let's study in detail each episode and any footage associated with our characters. I want to warn you right away that what follows are theories that are not official. The purpose of analytics is to give channel viewers food for thought.
Episode 1.
The first time we see a cameraman in a brown coat is in the first episode of the series. He stands to the right of the entrance to the toilet room. Notice his human neck. We can notice that the author of the series, at the beginning of the journey, they often use human necks, and in the future, when the series develops, he will begin to use completely mechanical necks. The hero's shirt is bluish, which matches our search criteria, and the arms are crossed on the chest, which indicates the initially closed position of this character. Note the black tie. You will say that this is not a SIMP cameraman. After all, he should not have a black tie, but a yellow-violet one. Yes. Starting from the 54th episode, it is generally accepted that the SIMP cameraman wears exclusively a purple and yellow tie. But let's figure it out together. Is it possible to assume that any cameraman can wear a tie of any color? And change it periodically depending on the development of the plot? Let's take a closer look at the system in which the author collects all the information about ties. To do this, we can delve into the history of his publications on the official YouTube channel.
The tie system.
He has several publications about ties. The first publication on this topic was made 2 years ago. This post describes the characteristics of the red tie in relation to the character archetype. I quote,
Honest, quite cynical, maybe aggressive, loves to dominate and make fun of those he hates, to make them feel bad. Passionate force of blue-gray, mostly never in the good mood unless he achieves his goals and desires.
Next comes another publication, but this time we see a description of a yellow tie. I quote,
Never takes life serious. Often does weird shit and looks creepy, but never does no harm, creative force. Always in the good mood, maybe become annoying.
Following this, we see a publication that describes a gray tie. I quote,
Sad-looking, pessimistic, compassionate. Might be quite boring sometimes, but acts better than other two. Soulful force. Mood depends on circumstances, although he's never aggressive.
Well, in addition, we see a publication about the synthesis of all these ties into one. I quote,
Blend of all the ties' personality may vary depending home which tie is triggered to take control at the moment. Monster natural and gentle, but suffers from madness. The author of all, aka Defuk.
Well, that's not all, because there is an additional publication talking about the latest epic mode. I quote,
Blue-gray but 10 times better activates during difficult times and for performances. All of the Blu-ray's qualities transforms into the final form to possess absolute unlimited power. Love the night and the rain.
I ask you to remember these publications and their meaning. This will help us further understand how the characters are built in the series Skibidi Toilet. Now, let's take a closer look at how the color of a character's tie changes depending on the plot.
The secret language.
Let's focus more on episode number 43. Here we can see a group of cameramen, including a plunger cameraman and a cameraman scientist. Please pay attention to the color of plunger cameraman tie. You may notice that it is red. In this episode, we can understand that initially the character of the plunger cameraman is active, aggressive, dominant, passionate. We can notice that a bond is formed between these two cameramen because they have quite good courage. Then when everyone else ran away in cowardice. This difficult situation in episode 43 brought two friends together, and then we see their duet in episode 48. Here we can notice that the plunger cameraman's tie changes from red to black, the exact same color that his friend the scientist cameraman wears. By the way, men choose black ties to express their protest. The black tie wearer doesn't want to draw attention to himself. Black ties are often worn by respected and conservative people, as well as by politicians who want to demonstrate their authority and power. Black is the power of abstinence and strict self-restraint. For centuries, black clothing has symbolized the renunciation of sensual life. Black color in our perception is associated with authority, power, stability, intelligence, and strength. Thus, from my point of view, the theory about changing the tie of a SIMP cameraman quite deserves the right to be. If the plunger cameraman's tie has changed, the SIMP cameraman's may also change. Based on this, we can assume that cameraman in the brown coat in the first episode is our SIMP cameraman. It's just that at the very beginning, he wore black tie, which speaks volumes about the initially closed and mundane feelings within him. And this may also indicate that the author has not yet seen a love arc and has not put a yellow and purple tie on it.
Episode 3.
Next, we see a cameraman in a brown coat in the third episode. He calmly and discreetly watches the invasion of the Skibidi Toilet.
Episode 8.
Next, in the 8th episode, we see a group of cameramen who have begun to attack. In their ranks, you can spot cameramen in brown coats, but judging by external signs, none of them is our SIMP cameraman. The clothing details and colors as a whole are different.
Episode 10.
After this, in episode number 10, we meet the brown coat cameraman again. Please note that next to him, we see a cameraman wearing a terracotta shirt. This is also a very important character in the series, but we'll talk about him later. Please note that at this stage of production of the series, the author is still using human skin on the necks. In such scenes, SIMP cameraman plays an important role, and this indicates that the author of the series pays quite a lot of attention to him from the very first episodes.
Episode 11.
After that, in episode 11, we meet the brown coat cameraman again. He appears at the very beginning of the episode. Here, the Alliance Army is marching to the three-headed toilet.
Episode 14.
Next episode 14, there we meet the brown coat again. With all this, we witness the death of 3 heroes, but that is not all.
Episode 17.
And here again, in episode 17, we see a character in a brown coat. Here he plays the role of a spy along with his comrade. As you can see at the end, they are eliminated again by having their bodies pierced with claws. This begs the question, if it really was our SIMP cameraman, then how many times did it die and how many times was it restored?
Episode 19.
Because in episode 19, we see the character in a brown coat again. Notice he eats French fries. This suggests that he is not a robot, but a cyborg. This means that inside it lies the potential of human feelings that has not yet been revealed.
Episode 21.
Next, in episode 21, we see how the interrogation of the Skibidi Toilet takes place. Chief Investigator. Here is a character with a brown coat. He asks questions and interrogates the victim. Thus, we can assume that SIM Cameraman is a spy and detective for the Alliance, and perhaps its main functions are reconnaissance.
Episode 24.
After Titan Cameraman was defeated and the balance of power was upset, Skibidi toilets began to prevail over the Alliance, and then, according to the laws of cinematography, a new force was introduced in the form of a new race. Overall, this is the most emotional race in the series. Speakermen are always dancing. They are more liberated characters. I think they brought a lot of emotion to the cameraman exchanges. Pay attention to the speaker in a black suit and yellow tie. Next, you will understand why this is important.
Episode 27.
Next, pay attention to episode 27. The Alliance group breaks into the hangar where the Skibidi toilets have accumulated. This capture group includes a speaker with a yellow tie and SIMP cameraman, but already in a red tie. This is the moment when Cameraman, wearing a brown coat, changes his tie from black to red for the first time. Most likely, this was influenced by his friend, the speaker with the yellow tie. At this point, we can notice that our hero, Sim, has already plunged quite deeply into the abyss of war and has become more aggressive, started participating in raids to capture hidden toilet bases.
Episode 29.
Then in episode 29, we see the cameraman in a brown coat, but again in a black tie. The glitch toilet is killing him, assuming that it was our SIMP. Then most likely we need to again consider the theory where it is constantly restored after destruction. But perhaps it was a completely different cameraman. What do you think about this? Be sure to write in the comments.
Episode 33.
In episode 33, we see how Cameraman, a brown coat, and his friend Speakerman, who wears a yellow tie, are hiding on the roof from an infected Titan from Speakerman. Here we can assume that their friendship is already strong enough, and an emotional connection between two comrades appeared, because they are tested together.
Episode 49.
Starting from the 49th episode, we can confidently say that the story arc with the cameraman in the brown coat is crystallizing. We see our favorite SIMP cameraman acting as POV here. We see that the balance is again broken, and the group of cameramen was defeated. One of them was still alive, so a Skibidi toilet with a circular saw immediately hurried to him. In an attempt to finish the job, he rushed at SIMP cameraman. But suddenly, at the very last moment, a team of TV men appears, led by a TV woman. She uses her fire techno-magic and saves the SIMP cameraman from death. Then, she saves him a second time. But suddenly, several large Skibidi toilets appear behind the squad of TV exchangers. Therefore, TV women decide to save the SIMP cameraman and, with the help of their techno-magic, pull him to themselves, hug him, and teleport him to the Alliance base, where scientists and engineers treat and restore wounds.
Episode 50.
In episode 50, SIMP cameraman returns as POV. Here we see that he has become even bolder because the scientist Cameraman running towards him shows him that he should not go there. But despite this, SIMP cameraman goes forward and, risking his life, films important information on camera, for which he receives approval from the Titan cameraman.
Episode 54.
And finally, in episode 54, we see a yellow and purple tie. This symbolism tells us that the emotional background and character of the character has changed a lot. He's watching the recording of the 49th episode on his tablet, which he recorded himself. Here we can consider the theory that each cameraman can transfer data from its camera to a personal tablet and also transfer this data to the tablets of other soldiers. In this episode, the author clearly wants to show us the bright and strong affection of the SIMP cameraman for the TV woman. Then there's the glitch toilet battle, at the end of which our loving cameraman tries to hug your beloved, but she suddenly disappears. This deep and sad moment is remembered by all viewers.
The art flow.
After this episode, works of artists who paint SIM cameraman are starting to appear on the internet, and this suggests that the author successfully endowed the character with certain character traits.
Episode 55.
After this, in the 55th episode, we see Cameraman in a brown coat again. Many theories say that this is the SIMP cameraman. Well, look carefully at his trousers. They are too light in color. Therefore, we can make the assumption that this is a completely different character, since you and I found out that different agents can wear a brown coat.
Episode 56.
So in the 56th episode, we begin to observe global changes in the psyche of SIMP cameraman. He behaves as aggressively as possible, but his tie is not red. Judging by the description of the author of the series himself, the yellow-violet tie never takes life seriously, often does weird shit, and it looks creepy, but never does. No harm, creative power, always in a good mood.
The aggression.
From this, we can highlight that he often does strange shit. What actually caused such a storm of emotions in this character? According to my theory, there is a complex of various reasons here. Let's try to list them. Firstly, this behavior can be explained by the fact that the Alliance team was extracting information from prisoners. As we already saw in Camera Episode 21, Browncoat Man has already done this kind of work. Accordingly, here he is in his place. The second reason that can explain his behavior is the loss of a friend. We notice that the speaker with the yellow tie has not been next to him for a long time. In general, I assume that everything that he saw during these military operations greatly influenced him. His nerves were broken because he had seen enough of various unpleasant pictures of war. Being in constant stress and fighting is a huge force of stress. And of course, one of the main reasons that could cause such behavior is unrequited love for a TV woman. Further, after the attack of the infected Titan, the Alliance soldiers began to run away. We see how two cameramen with brown coats managed to hide. Which of them was our hero? It's not entirely clear. In any case, we understand that he managed to escape.
Episode 57.
If we look at the 57th episode in detail, we see that man's SIMP camera is in the middle of the battlefield. It follows from this that at the time of the battle, he was trying to help the TV woman. But even despite this, she did not help him.
The choice.
Let's take a closer look at the reasons why TV women chose the plunger cameraman. After defeating the parasite, she looked at the cameraman Titan and didn't turn her head to the left at all. Where was the SIMP cameraman? That is, it's trivial that she simply could not notice him. The second reason may be that the plunger cameraman is simply more strategically important in the fight against toilets and has more advantageous qualities for the victory of the Alliance. In addition, this SIMP cameraman is under rubble, which makes his rescue much more difficult. Therefore, perhaps she chose the easiest and fastest way possible. First, save the plunger cameraman. It can also be assumed that most likely the TV woman does not have feelings for the plunger cameraman because the language of her body suggests that she is quite cold and distant and uses only one hand to touch the body and teleport it. Those who experience real love feelings will not behave so coldly. Another theory says that this is a debt to the scientist cameraman because the scientist cameraman helped the TV woman catch the glitch toilet. Knowing that the scientist cameraman is very friendly with the plunger cameraman, she decided to save his friend first. Besides, it is likely that after the TV woman moved the plunger cameraman to the base, she returned for SIMP cameraman and moved him to the base too. The character portrait. So let's try to draw a portrait of our character. Having studied all the episodes and all the frames where the brown coat appears, we determined that our SIMP cameraman character has quite interesting character traits. This is a fairly emotional character. He knows how to empathize, and his feelings of empathy are developed as strongly as possible. At the beginning, he is shown as quite closed, but as the series develops, going through various tests, his inner world begins to change. In the Alliance, how we found out its main functions: espionage, will interrogate prisoners, storm the Skibidi toilet bases, and protecting small groups of Alliance soldiers. At the moment, his main weapon is a stun rifle. He is wearing a brown coat, a dark gray suit, a light blue shirt, black leather gloves, black boots. His tie changed 3 times. At first it was black, then it was red, then yellow-violet. Thus we can track the 3 main stages of character development. At first, he was in the everyman archetype, living his usual life without thinking about the war. This period was symbolized by a black tie, calm and down to earth. Then events began to develop very rapidly and various military actions appeared and he had to participate in them. The emotional tension of the hero has increased and we see how he put on a red tie. Then the forces of the trials began to increase and he came to the gates of the main trial, where the Guardian met him, not being afraid of death and passing through the Guardian. Here he meets a stronger enemy, his emotional attachment. and then a yellow-purple tie appears in his wardrobe. A wave of emotion surged over our hero, and he could not correct it properly. And according to the law of the life cycle of a character in a movie, he came to death and renunciation. And as we know perfectly well, death is only the beginning of transformation. What will be next? Will our character begin to take revenge, or will he remain on the side of the Alliance with more improved abilities? If our character goes down the path of evil, you are most likely his main object. There will be a plunger cameraman. According to one theory, his body will be taken by a Skibidi scientist and turned into a terrible monster. But it is possible that remaining in the ranks of the Alliance, he will wait for the right moment and commit betrayal to avenge unrequited love. If he stays on the side of the Alliance, he will most likely acquire some new abilities, and he will have a chance to prove himself from a stronger side so that the woman will pay attention to him properly. In any case, this character is one of the key ones and gathers a lot of admiring fans around him. Well, while you're waiting for the next episode of the series, watch my next video with a detailed character analysis.